Hello and welcome to Baron's Game Room. I'm Aaron as always, and I am finally almost done with this spring cleaning thing. Today I want to talk to y'all about the Power Rangers deck building game. Now, I have been a fan of Power Rangers pretty much as long as I can remember. You can ask my mom about it. And I'm also a pretty decent fan of Renegade. I'm certainly a fan of their other Power Rangers game they have, Heroes of the Grid. So, what do I like about this one? But before we get into that, let's talk about how to play this game. In this 2 to 4 player game, half the players will be playing as the Rangers and half the players will be playing as the villains. First thing you're going to do is have each person pick a character to be for this game. Obviously, there are monsters again, or the Rangers. If you're familiar with deck building games, you probably know most of the setup. Give each player their starting basic deck, have a couple of standard decks off to the side, shuffle up your big main deck, and deal out 6 to the center of the table to start off your game. Whoops. Also, make sure the Rangers have this nearby. Make sure whoever's playing the villains have this little thing nearby. And last, depending on which character you've chosen, make sure you give each character a couple of proper special cards, depending on who you're playing as. Once everyone's shuffled up their starting deck, they need to draw 5 cards, and they need to make sure their life is set to 30. Keep in mind there are a few differences for 3 or 4 player games, like using these little number tokens, but I'm not going to get into all that. At the start of any given turn, you want to make sure that your center pool is full of your 6 cards, and that you end up readying any cards you've already attached to your character. Basically means untap them. The main things to know right at the bat are that this yellow shard and this little blue lightning arrow here. Yellow shards are what you use to buy cards to the table, so when you play down one of these cards, you will get that much to buy these, and how much they cost is up in this top left corner here. This is an energy symbol. Whenever you play a card with this on it, you're going to change your slider here and raise it by however many it says, and you use this to activate these abilities on some of these cards once you have them. The main deck has 4 types of cards: villains, heroes, maneuvers, and equipments. And as you buy stuff the game and add them to your deck, you can play them on your character, but which ones you can play are dependent on the colors of the sides here. So Tommy Oliver can end up attaching 2 of the grays, which would be equipments. He can attach 1 maneuver down to the bottom, and he can attach 1 other ranger up at the top. This layout is unique and different for every character in the game. Once you've attached a card to every side of your character card, that's when they'll be able to flip. Your teenage rangers will get to morph into their ranger form, and your villains will just become their empowered forms. Throughout the game, villains will be adding master cards over to the layer, which they can buy just like they can buy anything from the main pool. Every time you buy and attach another master card to the layer, you'll do more and more damage, as well as every master card has an ongoing effect that will usually help you out or hurt your opponent throughout the game. Rangers will be adding Zord cards when they buy them over to their Zord Bay. Now these don't have ongoing effects, these have one-time effects that you can activate before needing to ready them again. If you get enough of the Zords out, you can eventually end up playing your Megazord card, which is usually the best thing you can end up playing out to help you through the game. You probably noticed that a lot of the cards say either attack or block on them. And yeah, basically anytime you have an attack that successfully goes through, you're going to end up lowering the health down that much. And of course, whenever any player reaches 0, that is the game. They have officially lost and they have been defeated. Now, there's more detail I could go into there, but that's the basics of it. If you understand how to do deck building, then a lot of it's just from that. The only thing that's kind of unique to this one is the attaching unique cards to certain areas of either your character or your layer / Zord Bay, whichever one you're playing on the side of. As far as gameplay is concerned, I don't really have any complaints about it. I like it. I think it's a fun game. So this is the part where you would normally think, well, if you like the game and you're a fan of Power Rangers, why would you possibly getting rid of this game? And that's where this point comes in, where sometimes when you're a fan, anything that has a thing you like on it is going to be a win in your book. But double-edged sword, I guess, is sometimes when you're a fan, you notice whenever things aren't right, and that can bother you a lot. Now, like I said, Renegade already made another Power Rangers game, Heroes of the Grid, and big fan of it, love all the artwork in it, and I feel like the artwork is a big dropping point for this one, because whereas they could have just reused pretty much all the art they used over there and then grab whatever new art they needed, they did that sometimes, but then they chose weird moments to not do that. It's like the Zord cards, which use the art that he used in Heroes of the Grid, except for the White Tiger Zord for some reason, which was already in the Heroes of the Grid game, but they decided to use this weird junked up version for the card. The fact that they clearly messed up the teenager art for the White and Green Rangers. Notice how there's no white at all on the White Rangers teen side, and he's clearly so angry, which just, if you know anything about the show, doesn't fit that time period for that character. But all my own weird stuff aside, it's a completely fine game. The reason I'm not keeping it, other than having my issues with it, is just because I have other deck builders that I like better. Personally, I'm keeping Hero Realms around. It's one that I'm just a little more into, funny enough. So, since I already had some annoyances with it, and I had another game that kind of filled the exact same void in our game collection, it's going out. If the art issues don't bother you, if you're a fan of Power Rangers, if you need a decent deck building game to add to your collection, then, I mean, yeah, I've got no reason to say that it's not still Baron approved.